own eyes and kind of take a look at the production app that's located on the inside of the building. Again, the city did receive a $1 million grant to incorporate rooftop solar into this design from the Illinois Clean Energy Community Foundation. So sure, it took a lot of work, but again, a nice example of how small governments can kind of show the benefits of solar directly. And IGA did a nice, if I go back, IGA did a nice write-up of the program, or the project in a case study, so it could be fun to look at. The next one is encouraging residents to go solar. So again, providing resources in various ways can help to reach more people. So again, I've been mentioning doing public events like the one we're doing tonight. Other ideas could be adding resource page to the village website. I was poking around, and I've heard from Julia as well that you have that great installation rebate for the permit, which is really cool, and it seems like a great opportunity, if possible, to just add some more information about going solar in general and make it more of a solar resource page. And I have a nice example of that. I was looking at Oak Park's village website, and they also have a solar page where they have their permitting information and some information about local projects, and then they took that opportunity just to put some resources about solar and community solar. So when residents are scrolling around and taking a look, they can find those resources directly available. So I thought that was pretty cool, and something that small governments could consider implementing. And then finally, getting involved with community solar. So I'll try to explain this a bit more in depth now. Again, community solar is a program that makes solar accessible for people who cannot put solar on their homes for whatever reason. Again, maybe you're a renter or have a shaded roof, or you just can't afford the upfront costs of rooftop solar. So there are community solar gardens located all over the state, and this program allows people to subscribe to a small portion of that farm, as long as it is located somewhere in their utility territory. So again, there are dozens of these farms that are already built throughout the state and throughout ComEd territory that people are currently able to subscribe to. And just to make this even more clear, I kind of like this image. Again, developers will build these community solar farms, and they pay all the upfront costs to build, maintain, and connect the garden to the utility's power grid. And when you sign up for community solar, you're subscribing to a small portion of the project's panels. So maybe depending on your usage, you'll get 5 panels out of the farm, or maybe you'll get 30, right? Depending on what your usage is. And each month, your portion of the farm will produce clean energy, and rather than paying your utility company for that electricity, you would pay the community solar provider. And currently, all of these companies have around a 10 to 20% discount on the supply rate. So it's a really easy way to buy cheaper energy, and also energy that is coming from solar farms built right here in the state of Illinois. And then my example for this section, I have 2. First, again, is community solar resources. I mentioned just now that there are quite a few companies that build these farms, and that can be a bit confusing for people to decide, which company am I supposed to go with. So CUB has a website called solarinthecommunity.com, where we have general information about community solar, and then we also frequently update a current community solar deals chart. So we keep track of all of the companies, put them side by side with the discount rates and any other information you would want to know, which, our goal is to make it easier for people to kind of decide on a company to choose from. So that's something that could potentially be added to a village resource page. And then finally, the second example here is some communities, including Elgin, have directly partnered with a community solar farm and done kind of a marketing campaign so that residents can be, maybe you send out a mailer or do some type of promotion, and residents can sign up through your village program. So this one is pretty popular. A lot of communities have done it. It's through the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus. So they kind of have created this entire program that makes it easy for municipalities to sign up and be part of this more direct community solar partnership. So that's another thing to consider, is the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus program, or just in general directly partnering up with a community solar company. And that was quick. I think that's all I have. So up on the screen again is my name and email, and the hotline for Citizens Utility Board and our website. So I don't know if there's time for questions or not, but I wanted to thank you all again for taking the time and listening to me chat about solar for a bit. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your presentation. You're a very articulate young lady. Good
Thank
job.
you.
Any words from the board? Any questions? Trustee Lautner?
Thank you, Mr. President. Thanks for the update and the reminder of the importance of the focus on this. And I think we've had good success over the years. I haven't seen a recent update from our sustainability committee or whatever, but without getting into any details, is there kind of a reaction or maybe a quick update on how successful that has been for our community as far as residents taking advantage of the programs that are available? We see that growing. Has it been stabilized?
We have data on the municipal energy use, but we don't have the overall data on residents within the village. So when we compare to the baseline of 2009, we can only compare the municipal buildings to what they used at that time versus what they used. I mentioned 2016. There was excellent improvement from 2009 to 2016, and now we're waiting to get all the data from ComEd to see if that improvement is continuing at this point in time.
Well, not only that, but in terms of residents taking advantage of the programs that we've put together with the reduction in permits and things of that nature. Are we seeing a upward trend on that, or is it what's been our experience with residents taking advantage of the programs that we put together?
Yeah, I think the last 2 years we've seen a big jump.
Good.
Share with the numbers real quick, but I think what my memory was, it was something like we started with a handful, 5, 6 a year, and then we were in the upper teens last couple of years. So, and it seems to go in cycles or waves. Like all of a sudden, in the building department, these last 2 months have been crazy. Where they all come out of the woodwork, but
Right.
It's not a steady stream throughout the year.
And when building permits come our way, is this something that we proactively encourage them to consider, or is it usually from the resident that's raising the question?
Yeah, I would say usually it's either the resident, well, the resident is applying for the permit, either on their own choice or, a lot of times sales forces will come through and, you'll see multiple solar applications on the same block because, this neighbor
Right,
did,
word
they all start
spreads.
jumping on the bandwagon and
Right.
embracing it. So, yeah, we haven't really promoted it a lot, but we do make them aware that there is the rebate available if they do, when they apply for their permit, so.
Well, and the other thing I'm thinking is, and we're seeing, I think, a lot of garages being torn down, new garages put up. I mean, that sounds like a perfect opportunity with the connection to electric vehicles and, opportunities along those lines as well. So, but just great program. Appreciate the update and the information. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Trustee Lautner. Any other comments from the board? Yes, Trustee
Thank you,
Caputo?
President Scipio. Question for you: if people don't choose or don't have the ability to put the solar on their homes and they need it for the neighborhood or the businesses, how far can you draw electricity? Do you have to have it within a certain block or mile or so radius? If there wasn't a building that had solar panels on, how far could you draw to utilize that energy from maybe a neighboring town or a field or something like that? Is there any kind of parameters with that at all?
Do you mean, so if a building wanted to utilize solar that wasn't on site? How
Yeah, like, so
close
for example, maybe if I see you say you have it for some of these businesses and neighboring things, like one building take on some, like you said, those little grids or squares that they have? How far of a distance could you generate the power from your building, your home, from where the source is coming from?
Yeah, so I think that's when I was talking about community solar.
Yeah.
And so with those farms, as long as the farm is connected to the ComEd grid, you know, you're not directly receiving that clean energy straight to your home, but that clean energy is going onto the same grid that you're receiving it from. So that's all of ComEd territory. So if it's 50 miles away and connected to ComEd, you can
Okay.
still
All right.
participate in community
I
solar.
didn't know if it had to be within a certain
No.
parameter or distance or radius of where
Yeah.
that energy is coming from. So
Good question.
great, thank you.
Any other comments? Yes, trustee Stewart?
So for a residential, home, what's like the average return on investment for someone looking to get into that?
Yeah, from what we've seen, it's usually around like 6 to 9 years, depending on the size of the system and kind of how the system is designed. Yeah, for
And, like,
really average.
And what about like your monthly sort of, electric bill in addition to the,
Yeah, so again, it's really going to depend on how large your bill was before and how large the system is that you're getting. ComEd just transitioned their net metering policy this year, so currently, if you have the system, if your system is large enough to fit 100% of your needs, you can zero out your supply section of your bill. So if you want to kind of go home and look at your bills and think through what that would look like for you, it's basically able to zero out supply at this point. Yeah.
We have a case study on the sustainability page of a resident that has solar, and it gives all the costs, all the information on the tax credits, and I think the case study has about a 7-year payback period. So that's up on the website if anyone's interested. And it's an older study, but it's still current with all the incentives.
Trustee Laudner?
And what's a typical upfront investment that the homeowner might have to make?
I would say, I want to be very general, I know this is
Sure.
filmed, but I would say in Illinois, probably before incentives, it's gonna be like $22,000 to $30,000. So incentives cover around 60%. So 60% off of that, I guess. So like a lot of people after incentives will pay like $8,000 or so. But again, it really depends, and with the federal tax credit, you need a tax liability, so there's things to keep in mind, but yeah.
Gotcha.
And another plug for tomorrow night's event is I will go into further detail about all of what, you know, it looks like on the residential solar side of things, so.
Any other comments?
I have one more question. How old could someone's roof be before they have to replace it, like before it's like solar panels? Because I understand there's probably an age factor that if the roof is older, deteriorating, would have to be replaced. Is there a certain range that the roof has to be when putting the system on?
Yeah, so I always like to say that solar panels typically have a manufacturer's warranty of 25 years and can last longer than that. So you kind of want to aim for a roof that can last that long. So it's typically better to replace the roof before the panels go up if needed. Otherwise you have to pay to take the panels down and then put them back up, right?
Thank you
if
for-
you have to replace. Yep. Thanks.
Okay, Marina, again, thank you, and thank you for coming tomorrow night to our village to present to our residents. That's so important to us. And I want to just mention that this board and our staff is so proud of our Sustainability Commission for all that you guys do. And Donna, you as chairperson, Krista Grimm, you and your involvement has been a valuable person on that. And Krista has served on this village board also. And then you went back to the Sustainability Commission. So as chair, and we really appreciate all the efforts you guys put out, because I know the amount of yeoman's work you do. And I want to thank Director Ratty too for his involvement to be the liaison to our board and to our staff. So kudos to everyone for making this such a great program for us.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for the time.
Okay, we'll move on to public participation. Anyone care to address the board?
I just want to say a quick something.
Please introduce yourself.
My name's Donna Dragonitis. Ooh. I came this afternoon to pay bill, and I had a couple questions. And Julia took me into her office and spent time with me, answered all my questions. And I really wanted to thank her, to thank all you guys, that we really need your help. Us residents really look out to you guys, and I can tell my neighbors that you are very trustworthy. I'm very happy. I can't wait to talk to them, and it's gonna be a trying time, so we really need you guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much for those comments. And it's not something, I mean, that we take lightly here. We are so proud of our staff, all our departments, and it starts at the top and works its way down. And everyone that works at this village and is a member of the board up here, our residents are first in our mind, and I'm grateful for your comments, because it really means a lot that we're doing the job we're supposed to be doing. So thank you. Thank you. Do you want to say it again? That we'd listen again. Okay, moving on. Consent agenda. Megan?
Thank you, Mr. President. The items on this evening's consent agenda are as follows. A, approval of minutes. 1, Village Board meeting, January 28th, 2025. 2, Village Board work session meeting, February 11th, 2025. 3, Village Board closed session, February 11th, 2025. B, action. Wintrust Financial motion to approve an ordinance approving the list of designated depositories and investment institutions for the Village of Grange Park to add Wintrust Financial and Wintrust Community Banks, and approving the list of authorized signers for village financial accounts. C, action. Accounts payable and payroll summary motion 1 to authorize the president and chairperson of the finance committee to sign the register for bills, and authorize the treasurer and village clerk to sign checks in payment of operating bills and salaries as itemized in the check registers. And motion 2 to authorize the village treasurer and village clerk to sign checks in the payment of payroll and other bills that become due between this date and the next village board meeting, with subsequent approval of the payroll register and voucher register by the Board of Trustees at its next meeting.
Motion to approve consent agenda as presented.
So move.
Second?
Second.
Motion the second. Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Trustee Zora?
Yes.
Trustee Council?
Yes.
Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
Trustee Caputo?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan. Okay, we'll move on to village manager's report. Julia?
Thank you, Mr. President. I have just one item to report on this evening, which is not included in the board packet. Last week, just over a period of 1 week last week, the village sustained 7 water main breaks in our community. And through the diligence, hard work, and the ability to handle extremely cold temperatures, our Public Works Department was able to deploy out there and fix every last one of them. And so I just wanted to take a moment to thank our Public Works Department, Rick Ratty, their director, for their incredible work each and every day, but in particular, the work they did last week in addressing 7 water main breaks, 2 of which were quite substantial. So thank you for the work that you do, and thank you for doing it safely. And, you know, we're just so proud of the work that you do. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Julia. Moving on, Administration Committee, Trustee Council.
Thank you, President DeCipio. My report is as follows. The ADA Transition Plan Public Engagement Survey. The Village of Grange Park is in the process of creating an ADA, American with Disabilities Act, transition plan for public sidewalks throughout the village. This plan will serve as a strategic roadmap for identifying and assessing barriers that currently impede accessibility on roads, sidewalks, crosswalks, and other components of the public right-of-way. A critical element of the planning process is gathering feedback on the pedestrian routes and travel habits of our residents through a public engagement survey. We invite residents to complete the survey online or in person at Village Hall. Visit the village's website for more information, and thank you for your help in making LaGrange Park more accessible for everyone. The next item is the village news. Stay up to date on important local news by signing up for the village's weekly electronic newsletter, e-briefs. It includes updates on construction projects, community events, and more. Visit the village's website to subscribe and follow the village's Facebook page for real-time updates, announcements, and community highlights. Stay informed and connected. And that concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Trustee Council. Moving on to Building and Zoning Committee, Trustee Zora.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to report the Building Department activities for January 2025. 23 building permits were issued in January 2025 compared to 37 in January 2024. As of January, the pace of permit submittals year-to-date is trailing the pace of submittals at this time last year. Estimated construction costs for last month were just over $450,000, which is less than the $554,652 that was realized in January 2024. Permit fees collected last month equaled $7,740.80, which is less than the $11,633 of permit fees collected in January 2024. 95 building inspections were conducted this past month compared to 104 in January 2024. All the inspections were approved in January. Total of 12 new code enforcement cases were recorded in January. 4 were closed, and the remaining 9 cases require further code enforcement action. 1 citation for a code violation was issued in January 2025. The violation will be resolved through administrative adjudication process. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Zora. Engineering Capital Projects Committee, Trustee Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is tonight's engineering and capital project summary for January. Work continues on the preparation of bidding documents for the village's annual sewer-related programs, including sewer cleaning and video project, the sewer lining project, and the sewer point repair project. All of these projects will have a bidding set for February 2025. Work continues on the plans and specs for the village's 2025 water main improvement project, which will be focused on the design of water main replacements on Kings Court and Castle Circle. It is anticipated that this work will be bid in April 2025. Director Ratty and our office met with the Cook County Forest Preserve District regarding existing village license agreements. It has them regarding various storm sewers that flow to Salt Creek. We also reviewed the permitting process for work that would occur within the Forest Preserve relating to the head wall replacement project and the central area sewer separation project. That concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Trustee Stewart. Next is Public Safety Committee, Trustee Caputo.
Yes, thank you, President DeCipio. First, we'll start out with the Police Department summary activities for January 2025. Total number of crimes for the first month of January 2025 are equal to last year with 16 incidents reported. 434 total citations have been issued in January of 2025. Overall police activity is approximately 11% higher to last year with 1,040 total incidents reported through January of 2025 compared to 931 total incidents through January of 2024. Of those 1,040 total incidents, 39 were assist to the fire department, 274 were self-initiated building or business checks, 158 were traffic stops, and 78 were closed home checks. The department members attended 108 hours of training along with the completion of required monthly online training and Lexapol daily training bulletins. All police department staff completed that required the required annual sexual harassment training, including the crossing guards. And in January was the village's first adjudication hearing in conjunction with the village of LaGrange. These hearings take place once a month on the third Thursday of the month at 1:30 p.m. Data for the 2024 Illinois Traffic and Pedestrian Stop Study was submitted, and the 2024 yearly report for the Way Forward Act was also submitted. Mark your calendars and do not miss out on upcoming police department special events. The Polar Plunge is for the Illinois Special Olympics. This event will take place on Saturday, March 22nd at the Oak Brook Bath and Tennis Club. The plungers start at 1 p.m. More information can be found on the police department's Facebook page, including how you could donate to this great cause. Please follow the police department on our Facebook page at LaGrange Park Police Department or our Twitter account at LaGrange Park PD and Instagram at LaGrange Park PD. A friendly reminder about securing one's personal property at all times. Please lock your vehicles in residence, especially during overnight hours. If you are going on vacation, please utilize the new online vacation watch portal, frontlinepss.com/LaGrange Park, or log onto the village website and access the portal under the police department page. If you do not have internet access, feel free to fill out a vacation watch card at the police department between the hours of 9 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. That concludes the police report. Now I have a fire report to go over for January 2025. EMS incidents this month were 213. There were 167 EMS incidents in January of 2024. Fire rescue incidents this month were 65. There were 54 fire rescue incidents in January of 2024. 6 new firefighter candidates were hired in January and began attending the fire academy. Unfortunately, 2 decided not to continue after attending the first week of the academy. An after-action review was conducted for the fire at 541 North Catherine in late December, and some fire department staff attended the memorial service for retired police Sergeant Fred Ferber. The family asked the fire department to say a few words at the service, which Captain Tullis handled. The chief participated in an after-action review by the LaGrange Fire Department in relation to the high-rise fire that took place at 141 North LaGrange Road this past November. And the chief, wait, let me see. Yeah, we made modifications to our response plans during the month, provided both LaGrange and Brookfield with our ladder truck for various calls as needed, while Brookfield's ladder truck was out of service for maintenance. Personnel participated in CPR, AED recertification during the month, and I have a few instances of interest to share. On Friday, January 17th at 11:29 p.m., we responded with an engine and chief to assist LaGrange with a structure fire at Villa Venice condominiums. Chief 1201 acted as safety officer, and engine 1211's crew assisted with search. Also on January 17th at 12:29 p.m., we responded to the mobile at 1101 North LaGrange Road for plastic pallets on fire outside the front of the store. Most of the fire was extinguished prior to our arrival, which we completed. On January 24th at 8:10 p.m., personnel responded for a dryer on fire in the basement of 339 North Ashland. The fire spread beyond the dryer but was contained to the laundry mechanical room of the basement with assistance from the LaGrange Fire Department. The ambulance transported 1 patient with smoke inhalation to the hospital. And the last item is on January 31st at 9:41 a.m., personnel responded for the EMS call at Bethlehem Woods. A resident fell and was injured but laying up against their apartment door. After assessing other options, firefighters used a saw to cut through the door to gain access without further injury to her. And that concludes my report, President DeCipio. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Caputo. Okay, moving on to Public Works Committee. In the absence of Trustee Sheehan, Trustee Lautner.
Thank you, Mr. President. From the Public Works area this evening, they have the monthly report and 2 items for discussion and action. First, the monthly report. Public Works repaired 7 water main breaks this month and repaired 1 service leak. And not mentioned here, but to reiterate it again, in very adverse conditions in most of those cases. And once again, thanks to Rick Ratty, Director Ratty, and the staff. It's not lost on this group how impactful that was to all of you. And thank you so much again. Multiple snow and ice events occurred this month. Staff salted and plowed 1,236 miles of roadway using 200 tons of salt. Staff also completed 2 anti-ice applications on main roads. Senate Tree Service completed the tree trimming program this month on the east side of the town, and staff continued in-house trimming in that section as well. Department of Public Works rented an aerial lift truck to remove holiday decorations and to complete priority tree removals. New signage and delineators were installed at the intersection of Homestead and Harding to increase pedestrian safety from motorists driving through parking lanes. Staff spent time reviewing the tree permit for the proposed Jana Park improvements. Staff and Hancock Engineering met with representatives from the Forest Preserve District to go over permitting and access to complete maintenance on storm sewer lines flowing into Salt Creek. Superintendent Jandak participated in Career Day at Forest Road School for 5th and 6th grade classes. Street patches were completed along with pothole repairs. GIS work has continued collecting data on village-owned assets, along with continued training throughout the village. Water meters were read in Section 1. 15 monthly bacterial water samples were taken along with quarterly Stage 2 samples. Various water and sewer work orders were completed along with resident tree concerns and general construction inquiries, and routine maintenance to the department fleet and equipment was completed, as well as police and fire vehicles. And what did you do in your spare time? Quite a busy month. Now on to items for discussion and action. First of all, regarding the 2024-2025 salt purchase contract, suggesting and requesting consideration for an open purchase order. Public Works Department is seeking discussion and approval from the board to have an open purchase order with Morton Salt Incorporated to purchase bulk road salt in an amount not to exceed $26,000. The background on this is that the State of Illinois Central Management Services solicited bids for bulk rock salt in the summer of 2024. On October 9th of 2024, the village was informed that Morton Salt Incorporated was awarded our municipality's fiscal year 25 bulk rock salt contract at $64.95 a ton. This area had a below normal winter season in the winter of 23 and 24, which required the storage of last year's salt. This current fiscal year, staff requested 330 tons at 100% of purchase of the requirement. We participated in the 80% to 120% program, and the village must purchase a minimum of 80% or 264 tons, or we can buy up to 120% of 396 tons at the contract price. Since the beginning of the winter season, the remainder of the salt required to purchase from last year's contract has been completed. We are obligated to buy the minimum, but due to an active season so far, we should be able to purchase the maximum to capitalize on the pricing. In the current fiscal year budget, $65,000 is budgeted in the Public Works Fund to purchase salt. In consideration, staff recommends that the board consider and approve an open purchase order with Morton Salt Inc. for bulk road salt for winter operations not to exceed $26,000 to cover the maximum allotment at $64.95 per ton. So, Mr. President and Board, I would like to submit a motion to approve a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of the State of Illinois contract for 2025 salt purchase with Morton Salt Inc.
Second.
Motion and second, discussion, trustee Wagner?
A couple questions. One is, and I think I understand from past discussions on this topic, salt really doesn't go bad, right? I mean, we don't have to worry about any shelf life, so to speak, storage life, so we're good for whatever we have and however much. And just maybe Director Ratty a little bit on recommendation for maximum versus the 100%.
So, like I stated, yeah. First of all, the salt, no, it does never really go bad. We keep it in interior, so it's not getting rained on. You might get a crust on the outside because it's drawing that humidity during the summer months, but that crust will come off and actually break down and become powder again. So no issues with the storage aspect. Again, with the 80-20, 81-20 contract, you sort of have that option on what you're looking for, but depending on the season. But because we had to purchase the salt that we had remaining of last year, we were able to get that in our dome, and then all of a sudden we started having all these cold temperatures and we had these snow events. So we started actually eating into that reserve that we had. So right now it's worth it to go ahead and just anticipate we're gonna get that maximum 120%, which is still not a lot of salt, really. I mean, we usually go about 700 to 800 tons a year, but because we've had some light winters lately, we've had to store. So this year, I think we're a little bit above that because of some of the winter or the colder temperatures. So really, I do believe that 120% is gonna be the best for us, and at that rate, since last year salt prices were in the $70 range, so.
So favorable pricing for sure, and I was very pleased to see that it was well under the budget of 65,000.
Absolutely.
With that, I would support it.
Thank you, Trustee Lautner. Any other comments from the board? Seeing none, Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Trustee Zor?
Yes.
Trustee Council?
Yes.
Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
Trustee Caputo?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
The next item for discussion and action is the Central Area Sewer Separation Project, resolution of intent. And I will call on staff here probably for some comments because this is a very critical area for our village. To approve, and the purpose of this is to approve a resolution confirming the village's intent to construct the Central Area Sewer Separation Project, accept a $4 million in funding from the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago, issue alternate revenue bonds, and allocate other village funding sources to finance the project. The background on this, you recall, and we discussed it as recent as the February 11th, 2025 work session, our village engineer and staff provided an update on the Central Area Sewer Separation Project, which included financing options to complete the project. The MWRDGC, which is the Midwest Water Reclamation District, Greater Chicago, has recognized this project as a priority for funding and has indicated a willingness to collaborate with the village, contingent upon securing the remaining funds necessary for completion. The village board discussed two primary financing options, and the first one is an IEPA, which is Illinois Environmental Protection Agency low interest loan. While offering a low interest rate, the IEPA loan process is highly competitive and uncertain. In 2024, IEPA funded $612 million in projects while leaving $1.73 billion unfunded, and that highlighted the challenges of securing this funding. Or the second option that was discussed was alternate revenue bonds. And while carrying a higher interest rate, this option offers a more streamlined and reliable funding mechanism. If the village issues $5 million in bonds, for example, the annual debt service would remain comparable to the payments on the bonds issued in 2006, ensuring no increase in sewer rates or additional charges to the residents. It was a critical part of this discussion. Following the discussion, the village board supported option 2, to proceed with alternate revenue bonds to finance the remaining balance of the project. The village attorney developed the attached resolution that was included in our board packet, number 25-09, for the board's consideration, which, if approved, formalizes the village's commitment to the project. The project and scope and the funding plan, the Central Area Sewer Separation Project is designed to alleviate stormwater flooding and drainage issues within the central area of our village, generally bounded by 31st Street to the north, Indiana Harbor Belt Railroad to the east, Oak Avenue to the south, and LaGrange Road to the west. Highlights of the resolution and the project scope would include, first of all, it'd be an installation of 7,200 feet of storm sewers to divert water from the combined sewer system. There would be a construction of 1,080 feet of 8-foot by 7-foot box culvert to provide 450,000 gallons of underground storage. There'd be an installation of a storm pump station with a capacity of 11,000 gallons per minute at the village public works facility. Construction of 4,600 feet of forced main from the public works facility to Salt Creek. And there would be an implementation of 6 green intersections to enhance storm water management. So as you can see, it's quite an extensive project. The total estimated project cost is approximately $13 million, with funding secured through a combination of MWRDGC contributions, bonds, grants, and village reserves. The Key provisions of the resolution includes secure funding to commence construction in fiscal year 2026 and complete the project in fiscal year 2028. Accept $4 million in funding from the MWRDGC under the Stormwater Partnership Program. Issue up to $5 million in alternate revenue bonds to fund a portion of the project. And last, appropriate and approve expenditures from Village Reserve Funds, the HUD grant, and the Illinois DCEO grant to cover remaining costs. Staff recommendation on this, of course, is approval of a resolution that was included in our packet number 2506 is recommended to advance this long-standing village priority project, ensuring the necessary funding is secured to alleviate severe flooding in the central area of Grange Park, which has been a long-time problem for us, and for the residents, I should say. The origins of this project date back to 2000, when the village first recognized the need for a dedicated stormwater management solution. In 2011, further refinements were made to the project scope through the Sewer Alternative Recommendations Report, which provided a detailed framework for separating stormwater from the combined sewer system. Over the years, the village has diligently pursued funding opportunities to move this project forward, recognizing the impact of repeated flooding on residents, property values, and infrastructure. This project is a key infrastructure improvement aimed at addressing persistent drainage issues in the central area of LaGrange Park. The central area sewer separation project will provide much needed stormwater relief and reduce the strain on the existing sewer system. The proposed improvements are designed to mitigate flooding, minimize the risk of sanitary sewer backups, and enhance the overall efficiency and sustainability of the village's stormwater infrastructure. With the Midwest Reclamation District, Greater Chicago committing $4 million toward this effort and a financial strategy in place, approving this resolution is the next crucial step toward turning decades of planning into action and ensuring a safer, more flood-resistant future for LaGrange Park. And if we, in fact, do approve this motion, the next steps of this that would occur would be the Metropolitan Water, the MWRDGC will assign a project manager to oversee their involvement in the central area sewer separation project. And the next phase will include MWRDGC's authorizing negotiations for an intergovernmental agreement with the village to formalize the funding partnership. And once an IGA is approved and signed, the funding for MWRDGC will be officially committed to the project, and this agreement will define the terms of collaboration, ensuring that funding is allocated appropriately and allowing the village to proceed with preparations for construction. So I would like to submit a motion on this critical project to approve a resolution confirming the intent of the village of LaGrange Park to construct the central area sewer separation project, to accept $4 million in funding from the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago as part of the Stormwater Partnership Program, to ensure sewage revenue bonds or general obligation known as sewerage system alternate revenue source bonds, and to appropriate other village funding sources to pay for the project.
Second.
I'm sorry, motion is second, discussion, trustee Wagner?
Well, after a mouthful of that, I would like to ask our village manager and director, Ratty, if it could just make a few comments that I think are appropriate for the importance of this and what it's taken to get this to this point. And I'm going to say what their efforts have brought to the table, the contributions or the strong contributions and involvement of the MWRDGC.
Director Addy, are you okay with starting us off from a public works director perspective, from an infrastructure perspective? If not, I can talk a little bit more about the journey and how critical and pinch me that I'm here moment
I just
that we're
want to
here.
ask Trustee Laudner if he could just repeat the question one more time so I got it crystal clear.
Well, what I'm really looking for is some comments. You know, this has been a long time need, a long time development, evolution of this project, and it's taken a lot of time that I think the efforts of Julia and yourself have helped bring the Metropolitan Reclamation District to the table to lead to a significant contribution to this critical project. And anything that you can add to that, and maybe what it's taken to get to this, and your comments regarding this project.
I think that's very helpful. I'll start off and then you can chime in.
Sure.
Flooding in this particular area became a very serious issue with regard to the sewer backups into residents' homes back in 2010. For sure it happened before that, but we were seeing some pretty serious heavy rains under a short duration or a short period of time. And our sewer system has the toughest time to manage these types of rains, right? So it's a lot of rain in a short period of time. And that's what happened. And at that time, there was a large community meeting over at Nazareth Academy. Some of you may recall that. We had a number of residents attend there. There we really began the process of committing to a fact-finding mission. And so at that time, the village president, Jim DeCipio, assigned this project to the Engineering and Capital Projects Committee to come up with some solutions. And that's when we looked at a number of solutions to address what was happening in this particular area. As all of you probably know, this area is the low part of the village in terms of elevation. So it's high up at LaGrange Road, it dips down, and then it goes up again right around the IHB, and so it acts like a little bit of a sink, and that's why it gathers the water that it does and makes this project so challenging. And while we worked on solutions and while we had identified one capital infrastructure project, the village president, members of the board, and staff traveled to the MWRD offices in Chicago to meet with them on a regular basis to tell them about our project. And since that time, we spent quite a bit of time, the village trustees, village president, staff, in going to Springfield to look for funding to help fund this project. When we started looking at this project, it was about $7 million, and it's now well over $13 million because we've already spent close to $400,000 on the engineering and a lot of staff time and probably other funds here and there in modeling, preparing for this project. And so we were doing the outreach necessary to get the funding, but also to get support from the MWRD. And over the last decade or so, at least a decade, in 2020, we had another very serious couple of rain events. And the impacts were visually stunning, not in a good way. And we went back to MWRD and we said, listen, we really need the support. It's hard to come by funding projects of such a substantial cost for a small community. It's just very difficult to come up with that money to get this project done. And then we started working with them on a couple of green infrastructure projects. They wanted us to commit to green infrastructure projects in order for them to support the gray infrastructure projects. And so we implemented 3 green intersections with financial assistance from the MWRD and 2 green alleyways. And these were projects that were led by the Public Works Department with support from our engineer. I feel like I'm echoing a little bit. All the while, we continued to work with the MWRD and seek funding. We hosted a meeting with our legislators and residents of the area in this very room back in 2020 during COVID. We had strong attendance. We received quite a bit of support from the residents, letters of support in applying for various grants. And we definitely had the support of the community, and it was really for us gathering a little bit of funding at a time. And finally, in recent months, this project, we refined our application and it rose to the top of the list, and we're really happy about it. To say that this is pinch me, I can't believe I'm here, that moment, I mean it. I can't believe that we're here, but I think, you know, the persistence of our residents and what the residents have gone through has been the driver, the motor, the motivation in making sure that we continue to pursue the funding that we needed. So I definitely appreciate the residents in their support in the work that we did. And I know that's a long story, but that tells just how many moments and how many meetings over the years that we had really trying to make this happen. And it's a special day, to say the least. So keep your fingers crossed, and we'll let you know what the MWRD says over the next few days. I'll turn it over to Director Ratty.
I really don't have any other thing to say because that was just too sweet. So I just want to mention like one quick thing. You know, collaboratively between police, fire, and public works on some of these big rain events that we've had, you know, they're daunting tasks when, you know, you have 3 or 4 feet of water in intersections, you know. Our resident that's here in the town right in the room back here, she lives right on one of the corners that's in that fishbowl. So this is really truly a very important project. You know, it's going to be an exciting groundbreaking ceremony when that day occurs, and it's going to be even a better day when everything is complete. And hopefully we know the way that this is designed and what it's going to do. It's going to act like what we need it to do. Now, again, we're never going to solve 100% everything, but this is going to be a huge step forward moving forward. It's the last area of our community that needs some storm relief. So we're going to be taking a lot of storm water out of our combination system, which is going to ultimately, it's not just affecting that area, it's affecting the rest of the system as well, since we are all a combination system to begin with. So this benefit is going to be local, but it's also going to be area-wide for the whole entire village. So,
Thank you. Well, as referred to by our village manager, it's a long story, but nowhere as long as we've waited to finally address this, and thank everyone that's been involved in addressing this critical issue. So we're all excited about moving forward. And as you said, when that first shovel goes in, be a more meritorious event, that's for sure. I heartily support this.
Thank you, Trustee Ludner. I'm going to add a little bit to the history and the story of this, because this is truly a significant accomplishment for this village. I remember back in 2010 when it was a real issue and we started the plans to move forward, and we had a meeting at Park School. Half of you were here at the time, and Trustee Cedar was the chairperson of that committee, and we had all the residents come in and they expressed their displeasure with the flooding and what could we do, and it's taken us 15 years to get here. And every one of those years was hard work to continue to move the stone forward, because we were getting resistance everywhere. Lack of funding, no funding, weren't accepting our grants or our applications, and finally, after 15 years of persistence from our staff, each and every one of you, and Julia, the work you have done to go with us down to Springfield, to the MWRD, to beg and plead for them that our residents need help and we need help to accomplish a significant milestone. And we're there. Hopefully we're there.
Almost there.
And when this is all comes to fruition, I think we're going to have some extremely grateful residents in that central area, because they've gone through heck. I don't want to say anything else because my dad would yell at me for swearing, but they've gone through a lot over the years to put up with the flooding that we've done everything we can, public works, fire, police, to alleviate and help them through these treacherous times. And hopefully this will alleviate all their problems and we can move forward and we can all have be grateful that all the work that has gone into this for the last 15 years is going to benefit us down the road for many, many years to come. Any other comments from the board? Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Trustee Zora?
Yes.
Trustee Council?
Absolutely, yes.
Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
Trustee Caputo?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Okay, moving on, Finance Committee, Trustee Lautner.
Oh, this is mine too. This evening I have the financial update for January 2025. The village has completed 9 months or 75% of fiscal year 2025, which began May 1 and concludes on April 30th, 2025. The detailed revenue and expense report and comparison charts were included as part of our board packet. Fiscal year to date, general fund revenue of $7,909,200 is at 67.6% of the annual budget and $331,000 or 4.4% higher than last year. Property tax receipts are at $78,459 or 3.8% greater than last year, and other local taxes are lower by $29,000 or 3.6%. And that's primarily due to declines in natural gas and telecommunication taxes, as well as cable franchise fee payments. The natural gas tax is volatile and moves with market prices and weather. Telecommunication tax continues a long-term decline due to the move to more data-driven technologies. Cable franchise fee are now in a similar long-term decline as streaming replaces traditional cable services. Intergovernmental receipts are up $270,000 or 9.3% from last year. Sales tax and income tax continue to trend higher, while use tax and personal property replacement taxes are lower. The Illinois Municipal League, known as IML, recently updated their state shared revenue estimates. The income tax estimate continues an upward trend with the state use tax and personal property replacement taxes include steep declines. We anticipated the PPRT decline from the Illinois Department of Revenue notifications regarding their accounting adjustments. The state use tax decline was also anticipated due to the sales tax legislation, which moved taxes on some out-of-state and online purchases from the use tax to the state and local sales taxes. However, the decline has been more than expected. Based on the IML estimates, the state use tax and PPRT, which will be below the amount we budgeted for fiscal year 24-25, while income tax will be above budget. Licenses and registration fees are at $4,107 or 1.5% lower than last year. Permit receipts are at $109,856 or 27.9% lower than the prior year, due primarily to large new construction projects last year. Charges for services are at $3,095 or 0.4% lower than last year. Fine revenue is at $46,234, and that's almost 80% higher than last year due to parking and compliance tickets. And miscellaneous revenue is at $82,442 or 23.5% greater than last year due to increased interest income. And the total general fund expenditures of $7,644,684 are at almost 70% of the annual budget, and $476,380 or 6.5% greater than last year. The increase is primarily due to personnel costs, police pension contributions, and paramedic services, and all departments are still within budget expectations, and we appreciate all the efforts of all the departments to do that. And that concludes the financial report.
Thank you, Trustee Lautner. Okay, moving on to other reports, the village clerk.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do have one item to report on this evening. The Illinois Consolidated Election is coming up. It's going to be held on April 1st of 2025. Important dates and additional information can be found on the Cook County Clerk's website, which is cookcountyclerkil.gov, and then do /elections. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Our village treasurer.
No report tonight, Mr. President.
Our village engineer.
No report, Mr. President.
Our village attorney.
No report, President.
Commercial Revitalization Committee, Trustee Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. President. Here's tonight's CRC report for January 2025. The Grange Road Traffic Safety Improvements Project. The village has partnered with Kimberly Horn and Associates, Inc. to launch the Phase 1 preliminary engineering stage of the LaGrange Road Traffic Safety Improvements Project. The project, which was recommended in the Village Streetscape Improvement Plan, is a revitalization initiative that aims to enhance safety, accessibility, and connectivity along the corridor. This month, Kimberly Horn crews were on-site conducting survey work to gather essential data. Throughout this project, community input will be a central part of the process, with opportunities for residents and stakeholders to participate through open house meetings, interactive maps, surveys, and other engagement tools. Stay tuned for updates as this important project moves forward. Branding and Identity Plan. The village is developing a branding and identity plan to enhance the Grange Park sense of place, navigation, and signage. SPAN. The village's consultant provided a complete draft of the Streetscape Toolkit for feedback at tonight's CRC meeting. The final toolkit contains detailed specs for streetscape components, graphic standards, and photorealistic renderings. Visit the village's branding and identity plan website for more information. The Village of LaGrange Park Economic Incentives. Businesses contribute to the vitality and strength of our village. We welcome the opportunity to discuss business and development opportunities in LaGrange Park and the incentives that may enable new and expanding retailers and restaurants or assist property owners with their exterior appearance projects. Contact village staff to learn more about the tax increment financing, TIF, and business district funding, as well as the facade and property revitalization grant program. And that concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Trustee Stewart. Before we move on, I'd like to just make a couple comments about the CRC, our Commercial Revitalization Committee. I think Trustee Stewart, you have done a yeoman's job, along with Trustee Zora and Trustee Caputo, and Maggie and Derek and Julia and all the staff that have participated. You guys are going to change the landscape of our community. Beautify it to the extent that our residents aren't even close to comprehending yet. So I want to thank you personally for all the hard work you guys have put into this effort. And, you know, it doesn't go unnoticed. And they will notice when it does happen. So thank you. Motion to approve committee and collectors reports as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Everyone have a great week. Thank you. Thank you, Council.
You guys have it 2 times.
So I asked Mike too. Is there anything
Yeah,
I
we
should?
have it 2 times.
Is there anything I should?
We don't really need it.